Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we are taking on the notoriously complex, wonderfully chaotic, and just completely tangled web of Greek mythology. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by the sheer number of gods, monsters, and tragic heroes out there, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to untangle this epic narrative into a clear, digestible, chronological map. No confusion, just the raw, fascinating story of how the ancient Greeks actually made sense of their universe. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to take a macro to micro approach today. We'll start at the very beginning with the dawn of the cosmos, move into the rise of the Olympians, explore the age of man, take a journey to the underworld, and finally zoom all the way in on the era of heroes. Part 1. The Dawn of Cosmos, from Chaos to the Titans. To really understand the Greek universe, you've got to imagine an unimaginable scale. I mean, before time itself, there was literally just the void, a great yawning emptiness they called chaos. But the universe populated pretty quickly. Out of chaos sprung Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the sky. And together they produced 12 massive children known as the Titans. Now, Uranus was a terrible father. He actually locked his kids deep within the earth. Gaia, obviously furious, fashioned this indestructible sickle and handed it to her youngest, strongest son, Cronus. And in our very first true act of cosmic rebellion, Cronus used that sickle to overthrow his dad, slicing him to pieces and claiming the ultimate throne. Let's move to part 2 and see how this builds. Rise of the Olympians, the gods take Mount Olympus. Talk about generational trauma, right? Cronus was just as brutal as his father. He was warned by a prophecy that his own child would overthrow him, so he handled it with pretty much the ultimate toxic parenting move. He swallowed his children whole out of sheer paranoia. I mean, literally ate them. Only one escaped, Zeus. His mother hid him and actually fed Cronus a rock wrapped in a blanket instead. When Zeus grew up, he came back, forced his dad to regurgitate his siblings, and kicked off a massive 10-year war. Zeus defeated the Titans, locked them away deep in Tartarus, and divided up the world into slightly more structured, but let's be honest, still incredibly chaotic, realms ruled by himself, Poseidon, and Hades. Part 3. The Age of Man. Creation, Fire, and Punishment. Okay, so with the heavens under new management, our focus shifts down to the muddy earth. The Titan Prometheus wasn't exactly thrilled with just the mindless beasts roaming around, so he actually sculpted mankind from clay, right in the image of the gods. But humans were weak, shivering in dark caves, so Prometheus pulled off the ultimate heist. He stole the primordial flame from Olympus and gifted it to us, basically kickstarting civilization. But wow, Zeus's revenge was agonizing. He chained Prometheus to a mountain where an eagle would swoop down and feast on his liver every single day, only for it to regenerate so the whole gruesome cycle could just start over again the next morning. So the crucial point here is this really deep ideological clash. You've got Prometheus, who showed ultimate loyalty to humanity, risking absolutely everything for our survival. And then on the other side, Zeus, who demanded absolute submission and divine order, expecting strict obedience and, constant animal sacrifices. This wasn't just some petty squabble. This is exactly how the ancient Greeks explained the fundamental divide between mortal suffering and divine privilege. And actually, it's what led Zeus to devise a terrible secondary revenge, not just on Prometheus, but on all of humanity. Which brings us to a huge pivot point. Up until now, humanity was living in a golden age, this perfect time without worry or disease. So, how did it finally end? Well, it all started with a clay creation, commanded by Zeus and crafted by the smith god Hephaestus. That creation was Pandora. Her name literally translates to all gifts. The gods granted her beauty and emotion, but Zeus, being Zeus, slipped in an insatiable curiosity and handed her a sealed box she was explicitly forbidden to open. Naturally, that curiosity became overwhelming. When Pandora finally peeked inside, a massive, dark cloud filled the air. She unwittingly unleashed greed, disease, envy, and old age upon the mortal world. By the time she managed to slam the lid shut, only one single thing remained trapped inside to help men endure all these new horrors: hope. Which leads us to part 4, Journey to the Underworld, the inevitable destination. We're shifting now from the struggles of mortal life to the one absolute, inescapable reality for all humanity: death. It didn't matter if you were a king or a beggar, you were heading down to the realm of Hades. So what exactly awaited mortal souls after death? Well, the journey itself was haunting. It started at the shores of the dark river Styx. If you were buried with a coin under your tongue, the eerie ferryman Charon would take you across. If you weren't, you'd wander those shores as a restless ghost for 100 years. And, waiting on the other side? Cerberus, the massive, terrifying three-headed guard dog, making absolutely sure no one ever escaped. Now, what's really interesting about this is how remarkably organized the Greek afterlife actually was. It's almost like a highly efficient bureaucracy of death. Three judges would examine your life's deeds and direct you down one of three perfectly mapped out paths. Lived a pretty neutral, unremarkable life? You'd head to the fields of asphodel to just drink from the river Lethe, forget your past, and reincarnate. Were you a great hero or exceptionally good? Elysium awaits with eternal bliss and celebration. But if you were wicked, or worse, if you personally offended the gods, you were cast straight into the deepest depths of Tartarus for eternal, highly personalized torture. And nobody exemplifies that personalized sadism better than Sisyphus. He dared to trick the gods and cheat death. Multiple times, actually. His reward? A punishment custom built for absolute psychological torture. Every single day, for all of eternity, he was forced to heave a massive, incredibly heavy boulder up a steep hill, only for it to slip from his grasp right at the very peak, forcing him to trudge back down and start the whole thing over again. Part 5. The Era of Heroes. Mortals take control. So, zooming all the way into the micro level now, the world is set, the overarching rules are established, and mortals finally start taking their destinies into their own hands, battling monsters and fate itself. Consider this classic riddle. What animal has 4 legs in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening? That was the riddle of the Sphinx, a terrifying monster that was just decimating the city of Thebes. The tragic hero Oedipus actually solved it. The answer? Man. A baby crawling, an adult walking, and an elder with a cane. Oedipus saved the city, but even his genius couldn't save him from a horrifying prophecy where he unwittingly killed his own father and married his mother. His story is the ultimate proof that in Greek myth, no mortal can ever outrun fate. But while fate was undeniably terrifying, human capability was just exploding in this incredible burst of legendary feats. I mean, you have Perseus using a mirrored shield to sever the head of the Gorgon Medusa, whose direct gaze would literally turn a man to stone. You've got Jason assembling Greece's greatest warriors, the Argonauts, to sail the Argo and claim the Golden Fleece. Theseus heading deep into the labyrinth to defeat the monstrous Minotaur. Bellerophon taming the winged horse Pegasus to slay the fire-breathing Chimera. The sheer action in the heroic age was explosive, right? But one hero definitely towered above the rest. 12. That is the staggering number of completely impossible labors forced upon Heracles, the incredibly powerful son of Zeus. Driven into a blind, magically induced madness by a very jealous Hera, Heracles murdered his own family. And to atone for this unthinkable crime, he spent a decade performing these impossible tasks. We're talking strangling the impenetrable Nemean lion, slicing the heads off the venomous Hydra, literally holding up the sky itself for the Titan Atlas, and even marching right into the underworld to wrestle that three-headed dog Cerberus with his bare hands. So why do these ancient, chaotic stories still matter so much to us today? Because they are completely hardwired into our world. And this brilliantly illustrates how they survive in the very words you and I speak every single day. The continent of Europe, named after Princess Europa. The word hygiene comes straight from Hygeia, the goddess of cleanliness. Arachnid comes from Arachne, a mortal weaver cursed and turned into the first spider by a jealous Athena. And narcissist, that comes from Narcissus, the impossibly vain guy who fell so deeply in love with his own reflection in a pool of water that he just withered away and died. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. If the gods no longer hurl lightning bolts from Mount Olympus, why do their stories still rule our imaginations? We've mapped out the timeline today, but the raw human truths hidden within these myths, the dangers of arrogance, the heavy burden of curiosity, the relentless pursuit of hope, and our desperate, endless struggle against fate, those remain eternally relevant. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.